I never thought I'd set foot back home again. Not after that bus ticket. Not after the laugh. Not after the way he stared at me like I was a burden he was finally getting rid of. But fate has a strange way of circling back. And revenge has even better timing. Exactly 7 days after my birthday, I stood in the community hall. My name printed across banners he didn't know were about me. Dad sat in the front row, arms folded, confusion already tightening his face. He wasn't on the guest list. Mom dragged him along anyway, hoping it might magically fix everything. Fix things. She had no idea. I inhaled slowly, feeling all the words I'd swallowed over the years pressing against my chest. I touched the microphone. The room settled. Dad leaned in. Unaware that I was no longer the kid, he shoved out the door. This didn't begin with the ticket. It didn't start with him dismissing me. It went way back. Dad had one definition of success. A proper job, a proper degree, a life built in straight lines under his rules. And I wasn't any of that. I was the odd one, the dreamer, the kid sketching apt concepts while everyone else memorized accounting formulas. He called me hopeless with numbers, hopeless with discipline, hopeless with direction. My sister parroted his words like they were gospel. Mom stayed in the middle, gentle but silent. I didn't argue, not because I lacked courage, but because I was quietly constructing a future they insisted I'd never reach. At 17, I met Zane, quiet, brilliant, with messy hair and a brain wired for AI. We built our first prototype in his garage, sold our first algorithm before we even graduated, formed our company the same week. Dad told me I'd never earn a single rupee without living under his roof. He never knew that I moved out not out of desperation, but because we just secured our first investor. The less he knew, the sweeter the ending. One night, I accidentally overheard a conversation that carved itself into my spine. Mom asked him why he was so hard on me. Dad sighed, annoyed by the question. Because he's never going to be anything. The sooner he accepts that, the sooner he stops embarrassing himself and us. Those words weren't a wound. They were a whetstone. I stopped being hurt and started being strategic. I didn't want his apology. I wanted his witness. When our company hit a valuation of $40 million, the investors insisted on a public event. Media, celebration, a full spectacle. I usually avoided attention, but this time I agreed with one condition. I would give the keynote. The theme? The people who shaped my journey. Poetic, ruthless, perfect. I arranged a seat in myself, placing my family right where I wanted them. Mom accepted the invitation. Dad came only because his ego refused to stay behind. My sister tagged along for the free meal. They still thought I was doing some vague, online work. Whatever that meant, let their confusion set the stage. I walked onto the platform. The lights dimmed. The crowd hushed. My heartbeat steadied. I finally began. My journey started with a lesson, I said. A lesson wrapped as a gift. Dad's eyebrows pulled together. A one-way bus ticket. Mom covered her mouth. My sister froze. A ticket that told me I wasn't wanted, that I wasn't capable, that I should leave and figure life out alone. A ripple moved through the crowd. Dad straightened, jaw clenched. He'd never imagined hearing his choices echoed back at him. But that gift, I continued, taught me something valuable. It taught me quiet determination. It taught me to build a life loud enough to be heard without speaking. I clicked the remote. Behind me, the screen blazed with our company's value. $40 million. Gasps. Flashes. A reporter whispered my name. Stunned. Dad went still. Mom cried. My sister tried to shrink into her seat. Then I turned to him. Only him. And today, I said slowly, I want to thank the man who pushed me out, because when he stepped out of my life, someone else stepped in. I gestured to the wings of the stage. Zane walked out. My co-founder, the brother I found when blood wasn't enough. The room erupted in applause. Zane gripped my shoulder. Dad blinked, realization crashing through him. He hadn't been left behind. He had been replaced. The silence around him tasted like justice. When it was over, he tried to approach me. I walked past him. not with anger, with closure. He once handed me a one-way ticket out of his life. All I did was follow it, and for the first time, I felt weightless.